You've seen them, those people who seem to stumble into opportunities like they've got some secret map the rest of us weren't handed. They land the dream job, meet the right person at the right time, catch breaks that make you wonder if the universe has favorites. And here's what really stings. They'll shrug it off with "I guess I just got lucky," as if it's some random cosmic lottery they happen to win. But what if I told you that's complete nonsense? What if luck isn't about being born under the right star or having some mystical gift, but about a handful of specific learnable habits that anyone can adopt starting today? Most people are walking around with their luck radar completely offline, broadcasting all the wrong signals, while simultaneously complaining that nothing ever goes their way. It's like standing in a rainstorm with an umbrella, wondering why you're not getting wet, then blaming the weather. Here's the truth nobody wants to hear. You're probably working twice as hard as those lucky people and getting half the results, not because you're less talented or less deserving, but because you're operating with a broken operating system. You've been taught that success is about grinding, sacrificing, and waiting your turn, but the people catching all the breaks, they're playing an entirely different game, one where luck isn't something that happens to you, but something you architect through tiny daily decisions most people never think twice about. The gap between you and them isn't talent, connections, or some divine blessing, it's strategy, and you're about to learn exactly what that strategy looks like. Picture this. You're scrolling through your day, half asleep, going through the motions, when suddenly, bam, an opportunity lands right in your lap. But here's the kicker. It was probably sitting there all along, and you just didn't see it until your brain decided it mattered. That's not some mystical force at work. That's your expectation acting like a spotlight in a dark room, illuminating what you've primed yourself to notice. Think about the last time you decided to buy a new car, maybe a red Honda, and suddenly every other car on the road seemed to be a red Honda. Your brain wasn't creating those cars, it was simply letting them through the velvet rope because you'd given the bouncer new instructions. Most folks walk around with their radar tuned to static, expecting nothing remarkable, so that's exactly what they get. Nothing remarkable. Your brain is ridiculously efficient, filtering out about 99% of what's happening around you at any given moment because otherwise you'd be overwhelmed by every sound, sight, and sensation. It's like having a nightclub bouncer at the door of your consciousness, and that bouncer only lets in what matches your expectations. If you're expecting problems, delays, and disappointments, guess what's getting VIP access? But flip that script. Start expecting opportunities, connections, and breakthroughs, and your bouncer suddenly starts waving in a completely different crowd. Here's where it gets practical. Right now, name one good break you're primed to notice this week. Say it out loud, even if you're alone. Maybe it's a potential client reaching out, a collaborator sliding into your DMs, or stumbling across the perfect solution to a problem you've been chewing on. The act of naming it, actually verbalizing it, rewires that filter we've been talking about. You're essentially handing your brain a treasure map with a big X, marking the spot, and now it's actively scanning for that treasure instead of letting it blend into the background noise. This isn't wishful thinking or positive vibes nonsense. It's deliberately setting your radar to pick up signals that were always broadcasting, just on a frequency you weren't tuned into before. Let's talk fishing for a second, not the Zen patient kind where you wait for hours with one perfect line in the water, but the kind where you've got multiple lines out there, each one a potential bite. That's exactly how luck works in the real world. The more lines you have in the water, the more chances you've got for something to tug back. Showing up consistently, shipping small things often, and replying fast instead of overthinking every move, these aren't just productivity hacks, they're luck multipliers. Every post you publish, every message you send, every event you attend is another line cast into the ocean of possibility, increasing what some call your luck surface area. The person who ships 10 rough drafts will stumble into more opportunities than the perfectionist still polishing draft number 1. Here's a real-world example that drives this home. Imagine you get a DM from someone who's interested in collaborating and you respond in 5 minutes versus 5 days. In that first scenario, you're fresh in their mind, the conversation flows naturally, and before you know it, you're building something together. In the second scenario, they've already moved on, found someone else, or lost that initial spark of excitement. Speed isn't about being desperate, it's about respecting momentum and showing people you're engaged, alive, and ready to roll. One of the luckiest breaks many successful people talk about wasn't some grand strategy. It was simply being the person who replied, "I'm in, let's do this," while everyone else was still thinking about it. So here's your action step, and it's deceptively simple. Carve out 10 minutes every single day for what I call reach-outs. One message to someone you admire, one ask for feedback or help, one follow-up on a conversation that fizzled out. That's it, 10 minutes to cast 3 more lines into the water. Maybe you're reaching out to that podcast host whose show you loved, asking a potential mentor for a 15-minute coffee chat, or following up with that person you met at a conference 3 months ago. The magic isn't in any single reach-out. It's in the compound effect of doing this daily, creating dozens of tiny threads that could weave into something significant down the road. There's this person we all know, the one who's always late, and they've worn that identity like a badge for so long that everyone just accepts it. Oh, that's just how they are, people say, and opportunities quietly slip away because nobody wants to rely on someone unpredictable. Then there's the other person, the one known for being dependable, the one who shows up 5 minutes early and follows through on every tiny promise. Guess whose phone rings when something important needs handling? Guess who gets invited into the room where real decisions get made? Identity isn't just some abstract concept floating in your head, it's the reputation you build through repeated micro-actions, and that reputation becomes a magnet, either attracting luck or repelling it. Here's the thing most people miss. You don't chase luck by grinding harder or trying to force opportunities through sheer willpower. You become the kind of person luck recognizes from across a crowded room. It's like how certain folks seem to always land on their feet. They're not necessarily smarter or more talented, but they've built an identity around being resourceful, adaptable, and solution-oriented. When problems arise, they don't spiral into, "Why does this always happen to me?" mode. They shift into, "Okay, what's the move here?" mode. That subtle difference in identity creates a completely different reality, because people start seeing you as someone who makes things happen, rather than someone things happen to. So let's get practical. Right now, rewrite one "I am" statement that's been holding you back. Maybe you've been walking around thinking, "I'm unlucky," or "I'm always overlooked," or "I'm bad with money." Cross that out, literally, if you need to write it down, and replace it with something that serves your future instead of anchoring you to your past. I'm resourceful. I'm valuable, and people recognize that. I'm building wealth steadily. This isn't about lying to yourself or slapping a positive affirmation on a broken belief. It's about choosing which identity you're going to feed with your attention and actions moving forward. You know what's wild? Most people sabotage their own luck without even realizing it, simply through the tiny signals they send out every single day. Your body language, your tone in messages, the way you frame a request, all of these are broadcasting whether you're someone who's easy to help or a potential energy drain. Think about it. When someone approaches you with clear eyes, confident posture, and a specific ask, versus someone who's apologetic, rambling, and unclear about what they even want, who are you more likely to assist? People naturally gravitate toward helping those who make it easy, who respect their time, and who seem like they'll actually do something with the help they receive. Here's a template that cuts through all the noise and makes you instantly more helpable. Here's what I'm building, why it matters, the one small way you can help. That's it. 3 beats. No long backstory about your struggles. No over-explaining why you deserve this. No guilt-tripping or manipulation. Just clarity, purpose, and a bite-sized action step. For example, I'm building a newsletter helping freelancers find clients. Because most talented people are terrible at marketing themselves. Could you share it with one person who might benefit? See how that respects someone's time while making them feel like they're part of something meaningful? That's the difference between getting ignored and getting championed. Now here's your action step. Craft a 2-sentence ask you could send today to someone who could help move your goals forward. Write it out right now, even if you don't send it immediately. Strip away all the fluff, the apologies, the justifications. Just what you're doing, why it matters, and the tiny, specific way they could help. Practice this enough, and you'll notice something remarkable. People start offering help before you even ask, because you've become known as someone who's clear, purposeful, and easy to support. Imagine you're standing in front of a massive garden plot with a single perfect seed in your hand. Your one big idea, your sure thing, the plan you've spent months perfecting. Now picture betting everything on that one seed, germinating, thriving, and producing exactly the harvest you've envisioned. Sounds risky, right? That's because it is. The luckiest people don't bet the farm on one perfect plan. They seed the entire garden with 10, 20, or 50 cheap experiments, knowing that most will fail, a few will sprout, and 1 or 2 might turn into something unexpectedly massive. It's the difference between putting all your chips on red versus spreading small bets across the entire table. One approach feels dramatic, the other actually wins. There's this story that keeps repeating itself in every industry. Someone launches a throwaway project, maybe a quick Twitter thread, a weekend side project, or a simple product they whipped up in a few hours, and it becomes their biggest hit. Meanwhile, the serious project they labored over for months quietly fizzles out. That's not a fluke. That's the small bets portfolio in action. When you run multiple low-cost experiments, you're not just increasing your odds, you're also removing the crushing pressure that kills creativity and speed. Each experiment teaches you something, adjusts your radar, remember that, and creates surface area for luck to find you. Plus, when something does hit, people will call it luck, but you'll know it was simply probability playing out exactly as it should. Here's what I want you to do. List 3 experiments you can run this month that cost between $0 and $50. Maybe it's starting a simple newsletter, creating a lead magnet for your business, testing a new content format, reaching out to 10 potential collaborators, or launching a tiny paid product to validate an idea. The price point matters because it removes the excuse of "I can't afford to try," while forcing you to be creative and scrappy. Don't worry about these being your magnum opus, worry about getting them out into the world where they can interact with reality, teach you something, and potentially open doors you didn't even know existed. Here's something that'll flip your networking strategy upside down. The biggest breaks in your life probably won't come from your best friends or closest colleagues. They'll come from acquaintances, people you barely know, folks you met once at a conference, that person who liked your post 3 months ago. Sociologists call these weak ties, and they're absolute goldmines for opportunity because they operate in completely different circles than you do. Your best friend knows the same people you know, sees the same job postings, hears about the same opportunities, but that acquaintance, they're swimming in entirely different waters. And when they think of you for something, it's often because you're the only person they know who does what you do. The problem is most people ignore weak ties completely, focusing all their energy on deepening relationships with people already in their inner circle. That's comfortable, sure, but it's also limiting. What you need is a mini-system, something stupidly simple that keeps you visible and valuable to your outer network without becoming a full-time job. Try this. Every week, send 3 pings to weak ties. Congratulate someone on a win you saw them post about, connect 2 people who should know each other, or share a useful article or resource with someone who'd appreciate it. No asks, no pitches, just genuine value drops that keep you on their radar as someone helpful and thoughtful. So here's your immediate action. Send 1 no-ask value message right now. Not tomorrow, not when you've crafted the perfect note, now. Find someone in your extended network and offer something useful with 0 expectation of getting anything back. Maybe you saw they launched something and you genuinely think it's cool, or you stumbled across an article that's perfect for their work, or you simply want to reconnect because it's been a while. This single message might lead nowhere, or it might be the thread that unravels into your next big opportunity. But you'll never know unless you start treating your weak ties like the valuable network they actually are. Let's talk about the invisible walls people build around themselves without even noticing. The habits that actively repel luck, like a force field. Cynicism is the big one. That defensive posture where you dismiss opportunities before they even arrive because things never work out anyway. Then there's bitterness, that toxic residue from past disappointments that colors every new interaction with suspicion. Over-explaining your failures to anyone who'll listen, as if you need to justify your existence. Staying in situations where you're merely comfortable, not thriving, not growing, just coasting in a zone that feels safe but slowly suffocates your potential. These aren't character flaws, they're habits, and habits can be broken once you see them for what they are. Self-imposed barriers between you and the life you actually want. Here's a reframe that changes everything. Closed doors aren't rejection, they're redirection. That job you didn't get, it freed you up for the better one that came 3 months later. That investor who passed, they would have been a nightmare to work with anyway. That relationship that ended, it cleared space for someone who actually gets you. This isn't about toxic positivity or pretending disappointment doesn't sting, it does, and that's human. But there's a massive difference between acknowledging pain and camping out in it, building a tent and making it your permanent address. Lucky people feel the disappointment, process it quickly, and then ask, okay, where's this pointing me instead? Unlucky people engrave the disappointment into their identity and carry it like a badge. Here's your action step, and it's going to feel small, but it's incredibly powerful. Pick one phrase you need to retire immediately. Maybe it's knowing my luck, or that's just my life, or I'm not the kind of person who... Every time you catch yourself about to say it, stop mid-sentence and replace it with, I create chances, or I'm building towards something better. Words aren't just sounds, they're programming, constantly writing and rewriting the story you tell yourself about who you are and what's possible. Change the script, even awkwardly at first, and watch how quickly your reality starts shifting to match it. So here's the question that matters. What are you actually going to do with all of this? Because here's the brutal truth. You can nod along, think, yeah, that makes sense, bookmark this for later, and then go right back to the same patterns that have kept you stuck. Or you can pick just one of these strategies, literally one, and implement it today. Not tomorrow, not Monday when you're more prepared, but right now, in the next 60 minutes. Which identity are you rewriting? Which weak tie are you reaching out to? What small bet are you placing that costs almost nothing but could change everything? The difference between people who seem lucky and people who feel stuck isn't knowledge. It's action, messy and imperfect action that compounds over time into what everyone else mistakes for magic. Let me ask you something else. What's it costing you to keep operating the old way? How many more opportunities are you willing to miss because your radar's tuned to the wrong frequency? How many more years are you going to watch other people catch breaks while you're convinced the game is rigged? It's not rigged, you've just been playing with a rulebook nobody told you was outdated. You've got the new rules now. You understand how expectation sets your radar, how surface area multiplies chances, how identity beats willpower every single time. You know the micro-signals that attract help and the anti-luck habits that repel it. So what's stopping you from becoming one of those people everyone else calls lucky? If you're serious about making this shift, about becoming someone opportunities actively seek out instead of someone who's perpetually waiting for their turn, then subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. Because we're just getting started on dismantling the myths that keep talented people stuck and building the practical systems that actually create the life you want. There's a whole library of strategies, frameworks, and real-world examples waiting for you, and every single one is designed to turn you into the kind of person luck can't help but notice. The next video could be the one that changes everything, but only if you're here to watch it.